Welcome to the only show about the system by people who lived it. I'm Lawrence Bartley.
If you go to prison, you lose your voting rights.
It's like paying a price for something and you're free, but are you free?
Nothing made me feel more American than being incarcerated. There was a casual sadism that pervaded everyday life.
Women are still the fastest growing number of incarcerated individuals and have the least amount of support and programs when we come home from prison.
In many states, having a criminal conviction means you can't cast a ballot. And some folks who lost that right go to great lengths to get it back. We went to Tennessee, where that process has become a lot more difficult.
We're headed into the Shelby County Courthouse for a citizenship restoration hearing, and this is the process that people who have been convicted of felonies have to go through when they want to get their voting rights back. Janiqua Thompson was convicted of felony theft about 7 years ago. She served a day in jail and completed 3 years of probation. But today, she's back in court, this time to regain her right to vote.
32 is back in session. I want Carl Thompson's side. They be seated.
Okay, good afternoon. Good afternoon. The petition is for restoration of voting rights. We don't do too many of these, I'll tell you the truth.
Why is this mission to get your voting rights back so important to you?
I am looking forward to showing my daughter that even though you make mistakes, you're able to kind of bounce back.
Tennessee has some of the strictest policies for regaining voting rights in the U.S. People have to meet a series of requirements, such as paying off court fees and completing parole. And eligibility depends on the type of crime committed, as well as when someone was convicted. It's left everyone involved, including judges, scrambling to navigate a system that can feel extremely confusing.
I'm gonna get my questions out there early, okay?
These court hearings are like any other, where the judge has the discretion to ask any questions or request any additional documentation.
Is your position that the maximum sentence imposed by the court has expired?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, Judge.
It would be nice to have some certified record from the criminal court that shows that the sentence has expired.
Which has happened, and I would argue that Ms. Thompson can say that it has happened.
But I want something in the record that says you're done.
That's actually not something that happens with regularity.
If I could have just one moment with counsel.
Yeah, y'all talk with each other and look at this case.
Decisions.
For years, people were required to take one of two paths to be eligible to restore their voting rights: go through hearings to regain their citizenship rights, or complete a certificate of restoration, verifying they've paid all their legal debts and also child support. But in 2023, the Elections Division announced that people would have to go through the hearings and get a certificate, adding not just a new hurdle, but creating more confusion for everyone. Thompson's lawyer, Josh Spickler, is navigating the new system.
Talk me through the rights restoration process.
I mean, it is a full-blown legal proceeding. That can look like witnesses on your behalf. It can look like your own testimony in front of a judge that lets the judge know who you are. And all of that is filed in legal documents and presented and prepared. And then you have to get a time and a date and all the parties in the same place. And it hasn't always been that way.
Tennessee's standards for voting seems to always be in flux. For nearly 200 years, the state has gone from restrictive to looser and back again on its felony disenfranchisement laws, which have disproportionately impacted Black people. 21% of Black adults in the state do not have the right to vote.
This is all tied to the history that this country has, that this state has, this region has, of owning people. And not letting people vote, not letting people fully engage as citizens, is in some ways still owning them, still controlling them, their bodies, their voices, in ways that we've always done ever since we settled this area.
There are some folks who made it through the convoluted process of getting their rights back. But at the beginning of 2024, the state announced yet another potential complication.
Anyone convicted of a felony or infamous crime after May 1981 may not register and vote until full restoration of rights are restored and must comply. And my rights were approved in December.
Stephen Brown was granted his citizenship rights by a judge in December 2023. But while he was waiting for final approval from the Elections Division, they revealed that full citizenship also included regaining your gun rights. Brown's felony drug charge is one of the many convictions that prevents someone from getting back their gun rights in Tennessee. Without gun rights, Brown and people convicted of other crimes on the list now have no way to ever become voters.
What was it like to get this letter in the mail? How did you feel?
It was deflating because I felt like I met everything you needed. When the judge signed it, I was like, me and my wife were like, oh, that's it. We good. And then to get this, I was like, that was foul. Foul, deflating. And of course, I can get a little emotional about it because you find yourself willing to suffer through it, knowing that there's an opportunity to do better.
What makes you so passionate about this?
Because it's like paying a price for something and you're free, but are you free? Are you free? Has the price been paid, or does it mean that the goalpost continues to be moved?
Inside Story reached out multiple times about Brown's experience to the governor's office, the Tennessee Secretary of State, and the Elections Division for an interview, as well as a request for comment for this story. None replied. Disenfranchisement laws vary across the U.S. Many legislatures have actually expanded voting rights over the past 30 years. But Tennessee and some neighboring states remain outliers. Nicole Lewis has been reporting on voting rights since 2018.
So in the past, if you go to prison, you lose your voting rights. In some states, that means you lose your voting rights pretty much forever. And so the legislation that's been passed in the last few years set to sort of change that. It polls actually pretty well. Most of the country thinks once you pay your time, once you pay your dues, you can get your rights back. But the gap between the law changes and actually being able to show up on election day or to get your name back on the voter rolls is gigantic.
Is the system working as designed?
The legislation is working as designed, right, to keep certain people out and away. And I think the big picture here, why this really matters, is that there are so many races, particularly at the local level, that are won and lost on 1,000 votes, 100 votes. The margins are just getting so much smaller. It means that low-income people, people of color, Black people, don't get to have the same vision, right, or participation in achieving that vision in the United States because they're not able to vote.
During the hearing, Thompson's friends and mentors called her an upstanding, productive member of society. And Thompson also got her moment to make her own case.
First, man, you thought it was all right, you share the truth, all the truth, and that's what she said you got.
I did. Wait, stand up.
The standard is about character, honesty, respectability, veracity. I know you have some other witnesses here, but what else can you tell me about yourself that that would indicate that you meet that standard?
Yes, ma'am. Well, I just want to say that I know from my charges, it doesn't seem like I'm very honorable or trustworthy or honest, but I'm dedicated to making my life better and to showing my daughter the way. No matter what you guys decide today, I know that I am dedicated to making my life better.
Now, are you actively seeking employment?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, okay. Have you been evicted?
Oh, yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
You have one pending right now. Is that true?
Yes, ma'am. But I believe they're dropping that as well. I just paid it out.
Okay, you can step down. Thank you. Do you have any closing arguments?
I do not judge. The state is not opposing the restoration of her citizenship rights, her firearm rights.
Then I guess I have a question about whether we have to have an additional hearing or what that process looks like.
A court is not going to give a direct ruling today, but wants to get certain things in the record. It would be nice, I'm not saying I'm requiring that, but it would be nice to have something in the record that shows she's on a payment plan for those court costs. You have to respect the court to pay those fees and those costs, and it's hard because I know you're in the middle of eviction, but I'm just saying that's part of what you have to do as a good citizen. So those are the things the court would like to see. Any questions? Okay. If there's no further business, you all can be excused.
All right. For stays of recess. Next court, Mr. Fowler.
What just happened? That was over 2 hours. I did not expect it to last that long. Can you just give us an overview of what we just witnessed?
Sure, yeah. I think what we just learned and what just happened is that no one really knows how this looks. We just sat in a courtroom for 2 hours and went back and forth about a person's request to vote. That's it. That's all she wants.
Well, to be honest, it's not unusual for me. I have to prove myself in everyday life. America, they say that when you go to prison, it's for the reform. It's to make you better. Or they say, oh, this is your punishment. When this sentence ends, then now you are back to being a citizen again. But that's not true. A lot of things are just stripped away from you, and they don't stop punishing you. I'm sorry, but I'm constantly trying, and I'm climbing, and I'm bruised, and I'm broken. I know I deserve to be here. I know I deserve to be forgiven.
Topeka Sam is an entrepreneur who helps formerly incarcerated people like herself build equity when they get out. She's also a good friend of mine. We sat down to talk about women in prison and what needs to change. Getting you in a chair is crazy because it's hard to catch up with you. You are all over the place. I mean, yeah, it's true. Tamron Hall show, I saw you got an award with Variety magazine. Yeah. And I'm here now, you got a doctor in front of your name.
Yes, so God is good. God is good.
God is good. So like,
I'm in great health, you know. I'm losing weight, looking good, feeling good.
That's right. I know that's right.
All that.
It seems like you were making business moves before your stint of incarceration. Mm-hmm. So how did you go from businesswoman to in prison?
I would say wanting to do something very quickly and fast and selling drugs, seeing that I can get quick cash in order to build businesses, scale businesses, and do other things.
So how did you learn the impacts when you were incarcerated? The impacts of drug use?
I was in a cell 21 to 23 hours a day by myself, and we were only able to get out to go to programs. And there was NA and AA classes. And so I went in my own selfish reasons just to get out the cell. Then one day I was just like, you know, why do you use drugs? And the sister said her father had been raping her and he gave her heroin for the first time and told her to take the heroin so the pain would go away. Another sister was like, well, the only time I was able to spend time with my mother was when we smoked crack together. And it completely broke my heart because now I'm like, wow, they didn't have a choice. And I remember crying and asking the sisters, you know, forgive me. And they're like, you know, you didn't sell it to me. I was like, well, I don't know. And at the end, it doesn't matter. If I don't see the faces of the person that I actually sold to, I need to apologize to someone. And so through my incarceration, really understanding the impacts, when I came home, I knew that I wanted to, one, do good. God spoke to me and told me what I needed to do. And as I started the organization, started to see gaps, started to understand that I did not want to continue to hustle in that same way, you know, running, begging, asking people for money in order to do the work, that I wanted to be a person that can write those checks one day too.
So speaking about money, I know you got into banking. Like, how did that happen?
So the reason why banking is because, as you know, many people just from our communities don't believe in banks, right? A lot of times we're locked out of those opportunities. People are being released from prisons with checks sometimes. Why? Because now they got to take that somewhere to cash the check. We have a financial education course that we teach people about just basics on banking 101. Why it's important to have an account. You know, how do you save money? What do you do with your money once you save it? Everything also is about how we create a community within the community. Our digital skills training, we offer to men and women, because what we found is you don't want to teach the woman and the man is in the house and he's not learning too. Like, this is something that you can learn collectively as a family.
But the women, they hold it down for the men. What about the men holding it down for the women? I mean, what's going on?
I don't know. Tell me.
Yeah, I know. Like, that's what I'm saying. I'm like, it's a question for me. Like,
right.
That's sad and embarrassing.
It's crazy. I remember being inside and women would get divorce papers, or they would call home and another woman was answering their phone, or, you know, the man would just never come. Women are still the fastest growing number of incarcerated individuals that are happening right now. 800% increase over the last 20 years. Women are being sentenced to life at double the rate of men today, and have the least amount of support and programs when we come home from prison. So, you know, there's this, you know, perpetual cycle of, you know, recidivism, specifically around women, when 75% of us also remain unemployed for the first 3 years after incarceration because of barriers and bias, you know, of people who have convictions.
Yeah, it is. I mean, wow, that's a lot. What is Ladies of Hope Ministries, and what are you doing in order to fix those things?
Yeah, so Ladies of Hope Ministries is my nonprofit organization ending poverty and incarceration of women and girls globally. So we impact women in 34 states and the Caribbean. We have impacted probably 4,000 to 5,000 women and girls, access to safe and affordable housing, access to quality health care, access to an equitable, growth-focused job opportunity, and, you know, food. So we have Hope Houses, which is basically our co-living transitional space where women can stay in to get on their feet.
And you're also teaching women how to buy homes. So credit and buying homes, you marry those together.
Yep.
Then you building, you know, legacy, you know?
And that's the bottom line, right? And it's about tangible things that you can be proud of.
Lots of people have opinions about the justice system, but as Ravi Shankar found out, going to jail can give you a clearer view of how it actually works.
Nothing has made me feel more American than going to jail. Hartford Correctional Center is located on a stretch near car dealerships, fast food restaurants, a seedy-looking motel, and an enormous post office. As an English professor who's lived in 6 countries, I never expected it to be my home. But then I violated my probation for a misdemeanor by driving with a suspended license, and was sentenced to 90 days in jail to satisfy the state. Whenever I hear that phrase, I visualize the fanged Hindu goddess Kali with her long, lulling tongue, flailing multiple arms, and necklace of decapitated human heads. A goddess who needs human sacrifice. I probably make that association because my parents immigrated from India, though I was born in America and have benefited from the systems of discrimination that I would later suffer. Nothing made me feel more American than being incarcerated. I was peripherally aware that our criminal justice system tilts the axis of power towards those who create the laws and exert political influence. But it was not until I had to negotiate the system that I fully realized what many Americans of color have to regularly deal with. Well, I had heard that HCC is not the place where hardened criminals go. I was petrified. I was admitted around midnight and led down a brightly lit hallway into a gymnasium where I would join a mass of human beings in jagged rows. I found little hope for rehabilitation. Books were systematically removed from our dorm, medical requests were ignored, and there was a casual sadism that pervaded everyday life, all meant to destabilize. There was a basketball court where one hoop was 8 inches higher than the other, ensuring that any game would result in a skirmish. Breakfast was served before 6 a.m., lunch at 10:30, dinner at 4, and by evening rec time, everyone would be ravenous. Staff opened our letters, confiscated photographs. One CO responsible for assisting those with mental health issues would announce his shift by trumpeting, "Screws and schizos, come get your Skittles." Many of the men had mental health and drug problems, but they didn't belong in prison. I didn't experience any trace of a goddess in my brief time inside the glinting jaws of the prison industrial complex. But I did feel the digestive pressure of an institutional organ designed to make invisible the men and women traveling through its intestines. I also saw astonishing resilience and redemption. It made me certain that we must aspire for a far better solution in policing our communities and redressing harm. Punishment is a red herring that prevents us from understanding the roots of mass incarceration and the system's role in perpetuating trauma and social inequality.
I learned about the power of voting when I was still incarcerated in Sing Sing 14 years ago. We had an elected committee that was supposed to meet with administrators and advocate for our basic needs. For a time, the committee spots were held by people who I believe didn't go far enough to exact change, and not many people bothered to vote. So I ran. I passed out flyers and recruited people to spread the word, and I won with hundreds of votes. People who weren't interested in the process participated for the very first time because someone took a moment to explain and show they cared. Watching today's episode, I remember when I felt that voting really didn't matter. And let's be real, incarcerated people have lots of reasons to feel that way. I eventually got my right to vote back on the outside, but I'm inspired by the people who are still fighting so hard to get theirs. We all know they make it tough for a reason, but many of you are tougher. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.